a Microsoft MVP. And I'll start with talking about my journey. So my journey to MVP started sub 2011. I started with a product that Microsoft had published at the in 2003 called MS CRM. So it wasn't even called Dynamics by this point. So a very long time ago. It was actually 21 years ago. And I was the first person to implement it in New Zealand, that product. So Microsoft's first sale was to me as a customer, and I fell in love with the technology. Now, in 2010, 2011, I was part of an organization called iNetta, and I see Julie Yaks on the call. She knows very well about iNetta, and this was the community program that used to exist before all the community activities that we now have. It was more .NET focused back in those days, and I was the chair of that for New Zealand. Fast forward a couple of months, iNetta, in the following year got closed down because Microsoft had, split into multiple, many active communities operating around the world. In 2011, here I was at the bottom of the world in New Zealand, right? As far away as you can be from anything. The closest thing to me is Antarctic. And here I am. And I noticed that if you wanted to be up to speed with what was happening in the product team with the technology, you needed to be an MVP. It was the only way to get early access. And early access to this technology, which I now was doing as a full-time job. I had created a company and I was implementing dynamic CRM or customer engagement, for these organizations I was working with. And you got to realize back in 2011, technology was released on a 3-year roadmap. So only once every 3 years did Microsoft put out a new version of this technology. And so if you could get early access to it, you had massive benefit in guiding your customer around implementations at that time. Now, being at the bottom of the world, most Americans don't even know where New Zealand is on a map. And I proved this by, when I first went to my first MVP summit in 2012, because I got awarded in January 2012. I sitting in Joey's, which is a bar that a lot of the MVPs frequent in downtown Bellevue, and the discussion came up with a bunch of people. Where is New Zealand? And some people thought it was in Europe, some people thought it was in Scandinavia. Most people didn't know where it was. So from a Microsoft perspective and an engagement in on that global stage, being in New Zealand, you really needed to differentiate. And that's why I saw that MVP was one of the ways to do that. And so, as I say, I remember getting up, I think it was the 2nd of January, because remember, we're ahead of you right now. It's Thursday for me in the Southern Hemisphere, going into Friday. And I got up, I think like 3 a.m. in the morning, to find out whether I'd been awarded MVP. And of course, massively excited to get it, all those years ago. And so how many years ago? We're talking 13 years ago is when I got that award. And it definitely transformed my career. And it transformed my career in so many ways, in that I met so many amazing people from all over the world. I spent 18 months traveling, my wife and I, and country after country that we would go to, the first people we'd meet in those countries were MVPs that would take us out for a meal or, host us at an event. Or it was just an amazing experience to realize that once you become an MVP, there's this massive family of community where people have got your back. They want to support you. They want to help you. They want to enable you. And even though we might work in different competing partner organizations, there's a camaraderie that actually happens inside the MVP community. For some of you that know Wim, who oversees a lot of the community programs in Microsoft, he was a business application MVP at the time that I joined. So this is pre him going into Microsoft. And so it's been amazing to see a lot of MVPs often end up in Microsoft, right? Microsoft might give them a shoulder tap, or they apply for a position and they end up in that organization. Now, I've had the pleasure since about 2019 in London, I started mentoring a lot of people. And Over 40 of those people that I have mentored have become MVPs, specifically in business applications. I've had one get it in M365, but specifically in business applications, over 40 of those people have become MVPs. And I'm excited about how I could learn from them and understand what works and what doesn't when it comes to becoming an MVP. Now, since that 2018, 2019 period, I've mentored over 1,200 people in 70 different countries in Microsoft Business Applications. So that means the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 over that period of time. I currently have between 50 and 60 people right now that I'm actively mentoring all over the world. In fact, my biggest mentee audience is actually in the United Kingdom, and followed closely by India and then the US or the Americas region. When I started mentoring people, I wanted to mentor at scale in a way that allowed people that didn't have people in their country that could mentor them. So, for example, I've had a lot to do with Nigeria and the growth of the community in Nigeria when I was in London. And they had no community back in 2018, 2019. And since then, the Power Platform community in that region, Dynamics community, has expanded. I'm in a WhatsApp group with about 400 people just in Nigeria that make up part of the Dynamics and Power Platform community. And this is what I've discovered with Power Platform and Dynamics is it seems to have this ability to really attract people that want to help each other and support each other and root for each other's success, which I find absolutely amazing. But you might be asking yourself, what does it take to become an MVP? Well, the very first thing is humility. You need to understand that you need to be humble and curious to become an MVP. You need to always seek out truth and insights that might not already be documented or be available. And you have to come with this attitude of not knowing everything, but an attitude of wanting to learn everything. And it's a really important attitude to have because we've seen creep into the MVP program over time this kind of when people start to get a massive following and maybe even go into that area of influence, is that they start to think that they're important. And yeah, great. But I tell you what, the MVPs that stand out are those that remain humble. That remain humble and curious and always actively learn. There's an MVP that's just recently retired, literally because of his age from the program. He's living the good life now, Jerry Weinstock. And he's a classic example of an MVP that wanted to learn it all. So he was very strong in CRM back in the day. Along came the Power Platform and Power Automate specifically. And he just went hard for about 2 years. He learned everything about Power Automate possible. He blogged about it. He talked about it. He found all the new features. He talked about all the things that didn't work for him. So therefore, the product team would have him on advisory boards and stuff with them. And it was just a classic example is that Jerry was just massively humble and consumed everything he could around the technology. The second skill you need to have is this hunger to learn. Right? You need to have an attitude of, I need to learn everything I possibly can and apply a concept of learn in public. In other words, always be ready to teach. So hungry to teach what you learn, hungry to put it out there. And you might think, well, what I've learned is just basic. It's not important. And the thing is that the way you explain something could be the thing that has the light bulb moment for somebody else. The way you interpret it doesn't matter if there's been 50 blogs written on a topic or 30 YouTubes already published on it. The way you deliver it could be the thing that sparks the idea in somebody else and will totally change the course of their career. I have been blown away by the Power Platform and the predecessor with Dynamics particularly, is how it can change people's lives. And I mean totally change their lives, this piece of technology. I started as a groundskeeper. I spent 4 years mowing lawns at a school. That was my intro to tech. Why? Because I bought a computer with the money that I earned at that time. And then that led me to where I am now. And I never went to university. I have no formal education. I've got dyslexia. So, my spelling is atrocious. Nothing makes sense when I write sentences and things like that. But this technology enabled me to create a massive thriving, financially lucrative career that has taken me all over the world. Over 40 countries I've been able to go to. So keep your humility, hungry to learn and hungry to teach. Now, with this in mind, if you're wanting to become an MVP, you need to focus on one technology area. Until you become an MVP, don't diversify. Because when it comes time to be assessed to whether you meet the muster of becoming an MVP by Microsoft, they need to be able to go, which area, which category do you fit within? Are you a guru on Power Automate? Just talk about Power Automate. Don't even jump over to Power Apps to start with. Just do Power Automate. Don't do Power Pages. Just do Power Automate. If you're a guru on Power Pages, just do that until you get awarded as MVP. Then you can diversify. You can get into Azure. You can get into M365. You can mix it up and get awarded in multiple categories. But on day one, stick in one category. It makes it easy for Microsoft to go, that's the lane you're in. We can assess you against the other people in that lane. I've noticed people that try to go multidisciplinary struggle to get MVP for the first time. The next thing you need to do is create a digital presence. And that's not on social media. That sink in. You need to create a digital presence that's not on social media. You don't own social media. You are the product of social media. Social media owns you. They own your data. Look at the T's and C's of whatever you do. That's their data. They're even training it, using it to train AI. So get your domain name. It's not that expensive. Own it. Don't get a subdomain of somebody else and they still own your data because you've thought it'd be cheap to get a free site. The cost is a couple of cups of coffee for the month. If you forgo it, will buy your domain name and hosting for the year. Buy your own domain name and then create a portfolio-based website. Things that you should have in a portfolio-based website are your blogs. But you should have your speaking schedule, both past and present, on that site. You should have all the engagements or projects that you've been involved in without revealing any confidential information where you've got NDAs in place. You should have code snippets, your automations that you've built, apps, testimonials and feedbacks, projects, the industries that you work with. Make it a complete portfolio so when someone goes and looks at it, they can see over time that you've got experience, that you've been doing this for some time. It shouldn't just be a blog site. And the other thing, don't put advertising over it. Don't think you're going to make a quick buck by, putting Google AdSense on your site and a little revenue. That's like people are coming to look at your content, not to be advertised to run off to somewhere else. So just make it about you. Invest in yourself and get I call this a digital home. Just like you have a physical home and you are house proud and you would invite people over and you would have the decor a certain way, think about this in the same way. Let it reveal your personality, how you think, how, you can add even your other hobbies and stuff on this website, but make it unique to you. Make sure it's a domain that's easy to find. And then as you go to social media, you can cross-pollinate from this site to those social media channels and build your audience over time. Become known, engage online. Share everything. Gary Vaynerchuk says is that if you've got nothing else to share, turn a video camera on and let people watch you while you work. People will tune in to watch that, right? Don't think that what your contribution or your idea is too small. The important thing is get it out there. And if you want to start in one area, why blogging is so important? Because if we back away from blogging and look at writing allows you to clarify your ideas. It allows you to get crisp. It allows you to re-edit a sentence and go, you know what? I could have worded that better. I could have landed that message better. And also you're putting yourself out there for review. I've been doing a bunch of YouTubes lately and people will go in the comments, right? Mate, what are you going to do about that bald head of yours? Do you see the light refracting off it? I don't know. You're talking about innovation, but how are you going to innovate with that head of yours? Like, the thing is, people will throw stuff at you, right? And it starts to build, like, I find it funny that's, what they could creatively come up with. But when you put yourself out there, you are getting naked in front of the world, so to speak, right? And so it really helps you, though, refine your thinking. People reach out and go, you could look at it this way, or here's another way of doing that. And so you learn from the process of sharing. So get comfortable with sharing. And I'm not saying overshare, right? I'm talking about in the area of technology that you're focused on, get really good at getting out there because you don't know how it's going to spark creativity in somebody else. There's only one social media platform that you really need to focus on it. I'm not classifying YouTube as a social media platform, and that is LinkedIn, right? All our markets, especially since when Elon purchased Twitter, Twitter used to be an active business community. I've noticed it seems everybody's moved to LinkedIn that were business enabled then. I've got about 12,000 followers on X because I've been around a long time. And the engagement I get is zip now since it's become X. Just everybody's gone that was in that space, and it's no longer the water cooler. I go there for news, but I'm not really going there to contribute so much anymore. LinkedIn, though, is where it's at. So get really good at getting your LinkedIn profile absolutely schmick. Make sure that it, meets all of you've done a full complete profile. Make sure your image is amazing. Make sure your banner is epic, and then post your content on there, and build your audience and followers in that community. I can't stress the importance of getting LinkedIn right as part of your strategy. And then build relationships. Go to user groups, get to know people in your local area. When I moved to Australia, I went there and worked there for 3 years. And in those 3 years, I founded 6 user groups across every capital city in Australia. In the 3 years, I grew it to 2,000 members across those user groups around Dynamic CRM back in those days. And the thing is that the relationships that are built in those in-person events, which are, massively accepted now, post-COVID, people want to get back to that. If you don't have a user group, start one. Massive opportunity to bring like-minded people together, create a community around one of the pieces of technology you're working with Microsoft, and build relationships with people. Build relationships with Microsoft people, build relationships with other MVPs, build relationships. And remember, relationships come by a two-way exchange of value, right? And so you've got to look at what value do you bring to the relationship, that you can create that engagement with each other. Track and share your contributions. Here's an example of my site that I have currently, and it's gone through many iterations over my career. But this is my personal site, and the content that I do and blog on. That was not a humble brag having Satya there in a photo with me back in 2016 when I won a global award. That the importance here is track your contributions. Get a spreadsheet and start listing every post you do. Track your stats on it, put analytics on there, understand how many people are viewing it, how big your audience is, and what is the kind of topical category here. Is it Power App specific? Is it Power Automate, Power Pages? Is it Dynamics 365 customer engagement or F&O or Biz Central, whatever it is, track it in that spreadsheet and get really clear of your contributions and the frequency of your contributions. And this is just a starting point of you to understand your contributions, not out of, I think I've done that. Know exactly what that is just by tracking that in a simple spreadsheet. The MVP nomination process, there's only two people groups that can nominate you for MVP. They are existing MVPs or Microsoft full-time employees, right? Don't ask anyone to nominate you that doesn't know you. I constantly get LinkedIn requests, can you nominate me MVP? Never heard of you. Never heard of you. No, I can't. I'm not going to put my reputation on the line to nominate you for MVP if I haven't seen your work, if you haven't already cropped up in my community or stood out. Now, different if you said, can you mentor me? Yes, I do mentor people, but I don't nominate. I haven't nominated anybody for MVP for over 10 years. I just make a hard rule personally. I don't nominate people. I mentor people to become MVPs, but I don't nominate. So you need to find one of those, either a Microsoft employee to nominate you. They should know you. So whoever you're going to get to nominate you, make sure they know you. They've got to vouch for you. They're going to put their name on the line on your behalf. So you should have built a good relationship over time, right? Not over a week, over time. Whatever time means for you, it needs to be, a good period of time in doing that. One of the things that if you get accepted they're going to ask you for you to start tracking your contributions. How many contributions have you done over what period of time? What was the audience reach? What was the technology category it sits in? Hence that spreadsheet, you're going to now be ready, right, when that starts to come. You're going to get a URL to start logging your contributions. Microsoft are going to observe those probably over around a 3-month period and see what they look like, right? So that's getting you prepared for nomination. Make sure that your content, as I say, is on your personal space. Back in the day, I used to go, I get all these LinkedIn followers and stuff. Now, social media, fluctuates, channels change and move. Your website doesn't, right? It's your website. It's your home. It's your digital home. So make it easy when Microsoft come to assess you, that they can go to a single point and they can see overtime history of your contributions and activities. Really, really important. And it's very clear what your area of expertise is from a technology perspective. They shouldn't have to hunt 2 or 3 clicks away. It should be crystal clear, your technology and the contributions you're making to the community. So what are the benefits of becoming an MVP? Well, the benefits are people. You tap into an amazing community that will help you in your career like you would not believe. I said earlier on that the community is what absolutely. I have a new company that I'm a director of in the United Kingdom, called Cloud Lighthouse. All those people in that company are all friends of mine, as in all the leadership team, right? They're people that I've had relationship for over 5+ years, and all of them are either ex-Microsoft employees or our current MVPs that are in that. So the community, the people, you never know where this is going to take you. From little old New Zealand, took me to Australia. It took me from Australia to Hong Kong and the Philippines and China. It then took me to, I do a lot of work for Microsoft on contract. In the US. And then it's taken me to London, right? And Europe. And I've got to work all over Europe in my career. And the MVP was a big part of what enabled that journey for me. And it's the people that you meet in that community. The next people group is Microsoft product team, right? You're going to get, when you become an MVP, you get access to the product team. Why is that a big deal? I found after every MVP summit that I went to, I would fly back to, and I'm specifically thinking of Australia at the moment, I'd get back to Australia and Microsoft, the whole Microsoft business applications team would organize a meeting with me to find out what was new. And I'm like, you're employees of Microsoft. Don't you know this? The thing is, MVPs have crazy access to the product team, even more than FTEs in the field at Microsoft. So full-time employees have less access to the product team than what you do as an MVP. It's a massively privileged relationship to have. The last time I sent an email to Charles Lamana, which was after he presented at MVP Summit last year, within an hour, he emailed me back. Why? Because I built relationship with him over the 3 years prior before he became to the senior role after James Phillips moved on, right? So you build these connections over a long period of time. I know if I email Wim now, I'm going to get a response in the same day, right? Because I've built a relationship with the guy over time inside of Microsoft. And there's many situations where I can talk to this. The final one there is the MVP family, right? The actual MVP people that you get to connect and engage with all over the world. Last time I saw Angeliki in person was at Slovenia, wasn't it? I think it was.
I think so. Yeah.
Actually, were you in Vegas? I can't remember if you were in Vegas.
Not in Vegas. No, it was Slovenia.
This is the thing. You get to meet these amazing MVPs. You get to have a drink with them, eat food, dine, that type of thing, and really engage like you could never imagine. Yeah, Wim's the man. All right. And then you get technology access, right? And I'm like, a lot of people are like, I just want the tech access. Well, I tell you what, it's the people that's most important. In New Zealand, in the indigenous people of our country, they have a saying, what's the most important thing in all the world? And it is people, it is people, it is people. It's a relationships, a connections, and this is what you get on steroids inside the MVP program. Yes, you get heaps of technology access. You get heaps of licenses to build and trial your demos as you see fit. I'll leave you with this magic number 27. How many activities do you need to do? 27. You need to do 27 things consistently of high value. And I put this number out there. It's absolutely arbitrary. I posted this number in 2018, maybe 2017. No one's questioned it since. Thousands of people have watched the videos where I've got this number in. I just said, you need to do 27 things. I've got examples of MVPs. One of them's in Norway, Marlon, and she wrote she wrote for 30 days, a blog post every day for 30 days. High quality. And she became an MVP in marketing, or HR it was, I think, originally. Oh, Wim, I didn't even know you're on the call, man. Seeing you pop up there. So do whatever you do it consistently. And when you become an MVP, don't stop doing what you're doing consistently. Carry on, right? Some people say, should you desire become an MVP? Rick McCutcheon's a BizApps MVP in Canada, and he said, if your career is in the space, it's the premium award to get if your career is in the space. So it's something that you should go after if your career is in the space that we are operating in. Final things. Couple of call to actions. I've got a YouTube playlist of 33 videos that I recorded in 2019. I go back and look at it and say, do I need to update it? It's around how to become an MVP across 33 videos. Each one's only about 4 minutes of links, maybe less, maybe 2 minutes. That playlist is, I've had so many people reach out to me. I don't even count the 40 the people have watched that list, which have just done it and come back and said, you wouldn't believe how that YouTube series helped me so much to become an MVP. And that's a lot of MVPs that are outside this category. Start today. Don't muck about. Like, it's December, man. You could be cranking. You could get awarded by mid-February if you apply yourself and really go after this. My name is Mark Smith. If you want to connect with me on any of those links, there you go. You can scan me. It's straight to my LinkedIn profile. I'll drop it into chat. If you want to be mentored, happy to help. But I can't recommend the MVP program enough. Back to you, Lydia.
Thank you so much.